Hey everyone, welcome to another Intro to Java Programming video. In this video, I'm going to talk about the switch statement or multiple selection statement. It works kind of like a series of if-elses. I'll run the program so you can see the way it's going to work, and then I'll talk about the code. It's got a button and an image on a panel, and I click on random image, and it may give us a different image, or it may not. I only have 3 images to choose from, so we might get the same one several times in a row. Okay, and it uses a switch statement to select the image and store it in the image variable. So let's look at the code. I'm not going to go into all the GUI stuff on this one. I want to try and make this video relatively short. I'll talk about the switch statement and a little bit about the image, but you'll have this file, so you should be able to see how all that stuff works. So doing all the stuff that I normally do to create a GUI. Got my button, and then I've got my image variables. My image called img and a string called image name, and it's defaulted to taco.jpg. That's the first image that comes up, is the taco image. I do all of my usual GUI stuff right here. My load image method, you've seen how to make images before, so I'll go to that really quickly. I append my image name variable to the images folder, and remember, you cannot have a fully qualified path here. If you do, it's not going to work. In other words, an absolute path, you need to have that relative path. Just reference the folder name, mine is images, / and then image name. And then that goes into the path. I'm going to try to read in my image, else I'll print stack trace if I can't find it. So that's load image, right? That has to happen up here. Now, the way this is going to work is when I click on that button in Action Listener, it's going to generate a random image and then load the image. So let's take a look at random image. Random image is going to generate a random int between 1 and 3 inclusive. And then I've got my switch statement here. So this is our first introduction to the switch. And the switch is, it works like this. The syntax is you've got the control, the reserved word switch, and then you've got its control variable. And inside of these parentheses, you put some sort of variable or some sort of value that you want to control how you choose which case it's going to pick. I'm choosing the variable choice, and it's an int. I can use byte short char, int, enum, string, any of those things that are considered primitive types in Java, aside from enum and string. Those are kind of special. The textbook says that you could only use byte short, long, char, int, but there are some others that you can do. So we're going to use an int here. And if this random number generator generates 1, then it's going to evaluate case 1, case 2, or case 3. If choice holds a 1, that means case 1 is true. So it's going to look at this variable and see if this value right here is inside that variable. If it is, great. We're going to do this right here, and then we're going to break. This break is something that's very important, and you can use them or you can choose not to use them. If you don't use them, what's going to happen is that it'll do this, and then it'll go down and do this, and then it'll break. But what this does is it stops the switch statement from continuing to process. It'll do this thing, and it'll stop here, and then it'll move all the way down to the end, and then our switch statement is done. Okay? So if we generated a 1, it's going to give us the monkey.jpg in the image, and then it'll break. If it generates a 2, it'll go to case 2, and it'll give us taco in the image name, and then it'll break. If we generate a 3, it'll go to case 3, and He-Man will be in image name, and then we'll break. Okay, so this is the very basics of switch. The syntax is you have the switch reserved word followed by the block for the control variable, and you've got your whole switch block here, and in there you have a series of cases. And those cases have to correlate with values that could possibly be in our controlling variable. So in this case, we would want to use cases that are ints between 1 and 3 inclusive, because that's what we're going to generate. Now, if this were something like months out of the year, we would want them to be something like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for the months out of the year. But that's the basics of switch. Now, there's a lot more that goes into this code, and I encourage you to read through the code so you can see how all these pieces are put together, but I really just wanted this to be an intro to the switch. We're going to take a look at another video which goes a little bit more deeply into switch and goes through something called fall through.